strategy that you can implement here in that true fearless format. The Nafiri are going to get locked in first for Shadow. That's something that Monki had some success in just the last time that WE did take to the Rift. And you see what power picks WE is now going to get in response to that Rumble already being locked in.
Yeah, the Rumble super strong, usually hitting the bans. It's one of the highest banned champions right here in the LPL, and we are also going to get the Talia locked in right here. So the kind of composition that can just really wombo combo work together, already beginning to be drafted. A lot of mobility as well for Karis. Hasn't necessarily had the best laning phase, as we said. Well, the Talia is very safe in laning phase and can come join up with these fights pretty early on, get involved with the skirmishes as well, and also dissuades a lot of these heavy dash champions from coming through from FPX. The response, though, with the Sion and actually going to be the Ahri as well locked in. So a pretty neutral matchup right here in the mid lane. Much more about the roaming going around to these other lanes and these objective fights.
Try to just, I think, set up Shadow, or sorry, set up set up Shadow a little bit for success on this Nafiri. Getting him ahead is going to be a big priority here for FPX. We've seen him play this champion very, very well, both through the placement stages and here in the group stage as well. The Pantheon to lock in the top side for Team WE. Heading into that second phase of bans, it's done really well with this Talia specifically. You both have the point-and-click crowd control combining with that Unraveled Earth / Seismic Shove combo, plus double semi-global ultimates to try to get your way around the map.
Exactly. It's just so much mobility across the map from WE. It's going to really keep FPX on their toes. Yes, you've got the Sion to be able to potentially try to respond and get yourself involved there as well, but it's still going to be a little bit slower overall. And so we're still going to be needing both our supports and our ADCs. Now, during the early stages of this split, you'd be picking up your ADCs and supports pretty early on, not usually leaving them until this late on in the drafting phase. So that is going to be a little bit of a change so far. I think there's a potential option right here to go towards the Kai'Sa if you're WE for a very aggressive all-in style of composition. Honestly, FPX could do the same. The Kai'Sa really likes these full dive-based comps, and it's interesting that we see right here the Lucian going to be taken off the board. The Lucian Nami absolutely skyrocketing in priority at the moment.
Yeah, become more and more popular as we have kind of evolved, and you know, the laning phase again maybe being a bit of a reason why being extended here on this new patch. But even before, when we were still on the Noxus map, those Lucian lanes were really starting to generate a lot of attention here, especially here in our tier 1 regions like the LPL. As the bot lane's obviously going to be the focuses here. We'll see what exactly WE want to lock in. Very surprised that Varus kind of continued to fall through, but it looks like Taeyoon's going to maybe get his opportunity to play that one.
Yeah, I mean, he really, really likes having this Varus, and it works well alongside the Pantheon and the Talia. That's a ton of poke right here for WE, and can actually be pretty strong in the laning phase as well, depending on which version you're going to go towards. I feel like in this situation, you probably want to be that poke Varus. It is going to leave it's going to leave Sheer as a very strong pickup in this top lane. Not really anybody who particularly wants to be getting through tanks. And we highlighted it, right? The Kai'Sa in these dive-based compositions is always going to be an interesting potential pickup, and it is going to be assumed right here onto this Kai'Sa and alongside the Rel. So this is a very powerful bot lane, depending on what the response is going to be. Vampire, nice, standard, Nautilus, it works in almost every composition.
So still bot lanes that we've seen pretty often throughout Split 2, I would say. The Varus Nautilus, the Kai'Sa Rel, definitely going to be high impact, specifically once we get into those later game fights for FPX, is they've set up to dive. They've set up to really go full all in onto the backline here, as there's a lot of tools to completely just go in, go all out. That's exactly the strategy that FPX are going to want to go for. All forward, all gas, no breaks. Whereas WE, they have a little bit more creative tools that they can use. I think specifically the Pantheon Talia adds a little bit more flexibility in terms of how they maybe want to approach the mid game. Do they want to split push a little bit more, run the 1-3-1s, allow for those semi-globals to really flow through? The key for them is to make sure that they don't let that top side get ahead, because if they do, it's going to be very scary for them.
Absolutely. If this top side begins to get rolling, what do you really do in this situation as FPX? We've been seeing it, right? Anytime that a Rumble just begins to pop off, oh boy. The amount of damage that this champion can do, there's a reason that he's one of the highest banned champions overall. And WE's composition really doesn't mind if it's chasing onto you or if it's being chased onto. They can sit back a little bit more in this situation, chuck down that equalizer into the backline of a team fight and really split things up right here for FPX. I mean, usually you would rather the Rumble in a straight up front to back team fight composition, not exactly what FPX have, but I still think it's going to be very powerful in this one. And Cube, he's having a bit of a back and forth iffy kind of split so far. This is the kind of champion you can really get your feet under you with and just take over a game.
It's been one of the most powerful picks in the meta for a reason. The amount of impact it can have in these team fights is going to be big. Again, this matchup between Team WE and FPX are unexpected heroes in Group Ascend. Neither making the playoffs in Split 1, both here in Group Ascend looking to make an impact here as they continue their path towards a potential play-in to the LPL Split 2 postseason. As we load on the Rift for game number 1 between FPX and WE.
Alright, let's see it. Let's see it right here. Should be a very interesting matchup, and it's going to mean quite a lot for the standings. At the moment, picking up wins versus the teams around you in the standings is going to be incredibly important. There's a real crush of teams between those spots of 3rd and 7th. You very much want to be putting yourself as high up in those numbers as possible. Get yourself the weaker opponent going into those play-ins. And like you said, for WE, there's a long win streak that they want to keep going at this point.
And potentially it's more of a narrative for WE after this series ends specifically, but how legit are they, right? They're on this 4-game win streak. Can they make it 5? And even if they do or don't, they got to lock right back in tomorrow. They play against JDG tomorrow here on LPL English, so make sure you tune in for that one as well. As a win over FPX would certainly make them feel a little bit more comfortable going into that one. 5 and 6 as WE would be crazy. But again, how strong are their opponents here as we get a little bit of trading in the bot lane to start things off?
Yeah, things so far pretty aggressive actually from FPX, continually stepping up. I wonder if Vampire's just going to go for a hook here, try for the trades, or if Assume and Jwei going to get away with this one. There's the hook.
Just a little bit here, as it is going to be Assume and Jwei with that push to start things off, so they're going to be playing a little bit more aggressive in this lane. Junglers starting on opposite sides of the map, so Monki will be towards the bot lane a little bit earlier. We'll see if that means any plays are going to be made, or just the standard full clears that most junglers here in the LPL have kind of resided to at this point. It's a bit surprising given the historic volatility here of this league, but I think the fact that also we're on this new patch, we've got the Spirit Blossoms out, which by the way looks beautiful.
Oh, it's
does mean
gorgeous.
that our laning phase is going to be extended just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Things shouldn't be quite as rapid paced. I mean, for junglers specifically, the patch for the first bit of the year has just been go, go, go with the Grubs and the Drake and the other Grubs and then the Herald and everything just back and forth constantly. Things now should be shifted a little bit further back, give you a little bit more time early on. For a jungler like the Neferi who really wants to get to that level 6 and then start ganking, then start getting involved, that's just a bit more extra time to be farming. For a jungler right here like the Pantheon who likes to get involved in these lanes, wants to be going for the early ganking, especially in the hands of a player like Monki, it gives you a little bit more time to be able to do so, more time when people are in laning phase to be able to push your agenda forwards in this situation. I think junglers are probably going to like it a bit more overall.
A little bit more freedom, as you say. You don't have to consistently, be told what to do all the time, right? It's not always 6 minutes, I go here. Then, 7 minutes, if there's a dragon, I go here. And then again, 5 minutes later, I got to go back to the Grubs. Like, it seemed like there was a very clear, kind of like a run of show like we get here on the LPL English broadcast of like what junglers had to do when we were on that first half of the patch, or first half of this season 2025. Things are opened up a little bit more. We could be a bit more free form. We could be more loose, as that's what Monki and the rest of the jungle in the league are maybe a little bit more excited for now.
Hopefully a little bit of extra creativity as well as big damage here in the bottom lane. Jwei takes
that
a
empowered
huge
the empowered arrow going to hurt. Absolutely, as Jwei's down to about 100 HP. However, Shadow is actually the one in the bot lane as Monki path all the way back up after finishing his full clear. Not a lot of gap closing abilities, so just going to throw a couple of Qs onto Vampire, chunk him down a little bit low as well. No arrow finding Jwei, but Taeyoon getting very strong in this lane as well. No bloodshed overall, though, at the end of the day.
I was just stacking those blights up massively, and it was making it so tricky for anybody from FPX to be able to step up, and that's an early gank right here out of Shadow that just goes wrong. Now, we want to see extra proactivity from him. He was a little bit passive, a little bit missing in that previous series that FPX and WE had. So I like that he tried for that gank right there, but the fact it doesn't work out, not going to be ideal overall. We do now have the next Drake spawning, 10 seconds time until that one's going to be up and available. It's an Infernal Drake, so something you would like to play around. And because of the change here around the timings of the Grubs, you've got a while, 3 minutes until the Grubs are going to spawn, so plenty of time for teams to potentially set up around bot side if they want it. For the minute, they've been roaming their bot lanes up towards the top side of the map and just swapping things around.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is still kind of the strategy at this point. Normally, if we're watching Split 2 last week, we're like, okay, this is normal. You know, Grub's about to spawn or whatever.
Yeah.
But now, like, is that really necessary? What is there to
I
fight
don't
right
think
now?
so.
I guess it's mostly maybe one side or the other trying to avoid the 2v2, but now it's going to get matched, and Monki's here to try to make a play onto the FPX bot lane as well. Fire going to start off with the dredge line, immediately followed by the crash down from Jwei to escape, and nothing will happen at the end of the day. In the bot lane, the top laners are currently dueling things out. Equalizer utilized by Cube to generate a little bit of priority, and now he will maybe rotate his way back up to the mid lane as well.
Very interesting to see all of this map rotation and movement in the exact same way as we saw previously. I wonder if teams are just very used to it at this point, as Care just about is able to avoid that seismic shove. Otherwise, that would have been probably his flash, his ulti gone in that situation. Teams, they practice these map rotations a lot. They're going to be very ingrained in them at the moment, and the new patch only came in within the last couple of days, so things not changing doesn't surprise me too much right here. You can see everybody kind of hovering around where the Grubs would be if we were on the previous patch. For now,
I know, are they just like
too much to
are
kind
they
of fight
forgetting
for?
what patch we're on? I don't know. It looks like they're going to fight for it anyway. 6 minutes. Just some good old-fashioned tradition here. It's going to be first blood picked up for WE as Jwei got immediately one-shot, and now Shadow is in some trouble as well. He's going to get taken down by Karis immediately. 2-0 for Team WE in a fight that really shouldn't have happened in my opinion.
Guys, what are we doing? What is this? I love that. This is genuinely hilarious that they've decided to just go fight around where the Grubs would have been if we were on the previous patch, but are currently not there. There is nothing to fight around. Exactly. RIP
what is going on?
to first Grubs. The bot lanes have still reset and stayed topside. I guess they're just going to fight around the only set of Grubs spawning in 40 seconds time. I mean, still, it's 2 kills. As WE, you're going to be very happy with this odd little skirmish that we end up with here on the top side of the map. You get yourself a kill onto Taeyoon and onto Karis, 2 of those main carries we've been talking about. Karis specifically hasn't been having the best time so far in Split 2, so getting an early kill, bit of early confidence over onto this mid laner, going to be a great thing here for WE.
And as frustrated as I am that it seems like despite the new patch, the teams don't seem to really be adjusting to any of the changes that have been happening here on Summoner's Rift.
Actively ignoring them.
It is WE still kind of doing what they do, which is playing a bit of a volatile early game. You know, FPX decided to hang out in the enemy river, in the topside river, and Monki was like, sure, let's go for a fight. Karis ends up roaming up really nicely with the Weaver's Wall, and they're able to get ahead early, and that is exactly the recipe for success if you're Team WE.
Now we do have both the Drake and the first set of Grubs, only set of Grubs available on the map right now. WE, they've got priority up in the top side, and they had priority in the mid lane as well, so this should be relatively easy to step up and attempt to take these. You now need to just pick up 1 to get yourself a little buff, and it's 2 or 3 where you're going to start to get those Void Mites to help you out. There's going to be absolutely no response, so it's going to be all 3 going over here to WE, and so far so good for them in this early game, up by about 1,000 gold, and the early objective into the back pocket.
I mean, this is crazy. FPX were the one who rotated their bot lane first, and they're going to lose all 3 of those Grubs. They're going to try to respond, though, with a play as Taeyoon immediately getting chunked out and taken down by Shadow. Here comes Monki, though, to try to make it a bit of an even fight. Goes in with a grand entrance or grand starfall, but now is going to get taken down as well. Another stun connects from Jwei. Shadow jumps forward and assume picks up the 2nd kill for FPX.
An attempt back actually does it!
Oh my goodness! Taking him down immediately as the minions fall. The dredge line and the turret help Vampire out to help WE pick up the feats of warfare.
Oh, you could see it running through his head right there, where he was like, hey, the second this minion falls, I think that Assume stepped a little bit too far up, and he was absolutely correct in that situation. Manages to at least get a kill back. We'll have a look back at this one. This is just a great bait right here. You know that they're taking the Grubs at the moment. You expect the bot lane to walk back topside, and the second that Taeyoon steps up to that minion wave, insta-kill here, and Monki, he pops the ulti the second that play starts, but by the time he gets there, the bot lane is dead. There's nothing he can really do. It's this play that's particularly interesting. Watch the minions. They're both so low. Great timing on that hook. I mean, that's brilliant right there from Vampire. And Vampire's a player who, coming out of the Split 2 placements, I had massive issues with. I thought he'd played pretty badly. Not even pretty badly. You know, we can be real with this one. Really badly during the placements. All of a sudden, in split number 2, he's been looking better and better. Like we said, in the previous series, the bot laners were doing really well. That was big part through the supports, who were the MVPs for both of these teams. And Vampire in this game, again, nice and proactive, pairing up with Monki really well, and being able to get a couple of kills for his mid laner, his bot laner. A really solid early game so far.
That's the beauty of getting to play so many games right here in the LPL Group Ascend. Because WE earned that place through a really good day in that play-in stage, now they get the opportunity to continue to get reps after reps after reps. And even though it didn't start off super well for them, they started off the season 0-6. Now Vampire's really starting to turn things up. WE as a whole looking better overall. However, we did see a little bit of that over-aggression from Monki, maybe the over-desire to force plays, as he probably just should have let Taeyoon die after they saw three members jump on his head.
Taeyoon was very dead in that situation, right? There was absolutely no way that Taeyoon was going to be able to survive that one. Didn't flash, didn't cleanse. There was no point. He was CC'd and dead instantly. You're right, Monki didn't necessarily need to pull the trigger like that, but that's the way Monki is. He's a very aggressive player. He really likes to put his team on his back, doesn't like to watch any of his carries go down, get killed. We do now see a little bit of aggression here around the bottom side of the map towards this Drake. This is a full 6.5 minutes after that first Drake spawn. This is very late to be trying to play around this objective.
Yeah, the first dragon's still up, so a lot of opportunities to maybe play for things if they want to. Monki right now around that bottom side. The mid laners have kind of rotated down there. Meanwhile, Shadow up top lane, maybe looking for a play alongside Sheer on a cube. Already the unstoppable onslaught pop. There comes the dump forward from Shadow, and a very easy kill picked up from FPX.
There we go. Both of these junglers very proactive on the map at the moment. Exactly what we want to see from Shadow after he'd had some inactivity issues. The response is going to be the Drake down on the bottom side, as one would expect. So early on, WE, they have been able to be in control of these objectives, but still being able to get a kill here onto your Neferi, so key. The Neferi is going to be a big part of being able to win, because there's a ton of squishy, high damage carry options that you want to be trying to play for. Both Cube... Oh, hang on. Shadow.
Oh, nice
right.
cancel from Shadow. Using the target to get away from that depth charge. We'll see if it matters, though. The Chain of Corruption hits from Taeyoon. Nice flash ulti from him, and it should result in Shadow going down, and a nice chunk of gold going over to the Varus.
Oh, I really didn't think that Chains of Corruption was going to hit. Looked like it was on the very edges of the hitbox. Well done to Taeyoon for being able to hit that one. Now you're going to be able to pick up a huge amount of damage onto this tower. Turret plate still available, obviously. We're only nearly 13 minutes into this game. This is more and more gold that you can be pumping into your bot lane. But there's a response here from FPX.
Karis is TP as well if he wants to use it. There he goes onto that pink ward in the bush, but it's going to get canceled by Karis. Just way too obvious of a location to be using that summoner spell. And now it'll only be a 3v3 with Assume already chunked out. Sheer is here, but does not have the unstoppable onslaught. He's going to use that decimating smash to try to lock down Taeyoon. Jwei jumping in as well, and it will be a 1-for-1 so far. But Monki now jumps in, lands that Comet Spear, and will take him down for a double kill going towards the Pantheon. Now Sheer, still alive, but in a 1v3, going to try to get one back on a Vampire, but it will not happen. Dredgeline back in, and Team WE winning out on that fight, and on the bottom lane as well, as Karis will pick up the kill on the Care.
Oh, it's a complete disaster right there for FPX across the board. They just get taken down. Like you said, way too obvious of a TP location. Means that it's cancelled out. FPX don't get the reinforcements they were expecting. WE plays that team fight out brilliantly. 3-1-4, 2-0-1 right here onto Monki and Karis. These two are in an incredibly strong position at the moment. And then Taeyoon also being the beneficiary of a couple kills too. Have a look at what went on in the bottom side. Obvious place to be teleporting in. Immediately gets that one cancelled out. And because you get that one cancelled out, that's a huge chunk of damage that goes down. And Karis, does he just ulti forwards? Or does he just walk this one up?
We are greeting for this wave.
Yeah. Yikes, that's two really well executed seismic shoves there. And yeah, you managed to pop Karis off of the Weaver's Wall, but really not going to help out. We'll have a look back at what ended up happening topside, but there's nothing too much to it, right? It's a good Magnet Storm attempts out of Jwei to pull a couple members in. That delays the death of his friends, but not enough.
And just overall taking a look at this fight as a whole, nicely done by Monki to find himself a couple of kills, and then Sheer just doesn't have any damage after the rest of his team does go down on that top side. So nicely done from WE. They've picked themselves up a solid advantage at the 15-minute mark. However, we have always seen FPX be able to pull themselves out from certain deficits and The gold lead is 3,000. That is certainly not an impossible level to climb out of. As FPX still looks like they want to try to fight things out a little bit here, as they're the ones actually starting up the Rift Herald.
And WE, they can potentially go and try play around this one. Jwei could have a bit of a flank right now, and you can see the hesitancy out of WE. They don't know where everyone is.
Yeah, Monki's not in the area for a smite just yet, but here comes that Grand Starfall. Shadow already has to pop the untargetable, but assume diving onto the back line, taking down Taeyoon, and Jwei somehow gets the Rift Herald. So right now it's a 2 for 2 in terms of kills right now. Cube gonna go down here as Karis picks up another kill, but the seismic shove will connect onto the Ari as well. Karis still very big on the front line, the back line here, and Monki doing the work. It's a triple kill for the Pantheon, and the Scion will fall as well. All of a sudden it's a quadra kill for Monki, and an ace picked up for Team WE.
They were hesitant, but the second that they knew where the majority of members were, WE go flying in. Monki with that quadra kill. He is popping off right here on the Pantheon. I think Pantheon's been one of the best look champions for him. He could be so proactive on it. You can see with that Grand Starfall down across multiple members in that team fight, just shredding through people at this point. WE, yes, they do lose out onto the Rift Herald. Like you said, Jwei was just about able to pick that one up, but I don't think anybody grabbed the eye in the end.
Actually, that's a good point. I think Jwei might have been able to get in there, but we'll have to take a look at the inventories once all is said and done.
I don't think he has it.
It was a nice attempt here by the bot lane. No, nobody has it.
No, he doesn't have it. Nobody has it. So that's just a straight up win right here for WE. We'll have a look back at it right now. And this is the thing with these double semi-global ultis, is that you can just immediately lay them down on top of each other, get into this fight in just one tap. And this was it. I was looking down on the bottom side of the fight, but on the top side, Monki just immediately gets to take down his opposition number in Shadow. And once the Nefari's gone, that's a ton of the early game damage from this composition just gone. And he was wrecking through people at this point. So much damage available to this Pantheon.
And a shout out to Karis as well, who is being that supportive mid laner here right now for Team WE, but doing it really, really nicely. A number of really impactful seismic shoves that either force impactful cooldowns like the untargetable from Shadow, or just straight up killed people, as that is what has led to WE picking themselves up now almost a 5,000 gold lead over Team FPX. Again, WE won this matchup in the last match time that these two teams faced off, and that was not a result that was necessarily expected at the time, but the way WE have been playing, I mean, this is certainly starting to become the norm here for this team.
Absolutely, they've been looking better and better and better with time. It really is good to see this team be aging like this, to be maturing. The way that they've been playing around this very proactive, very aggressive jungler has been great. I think Monki very much needs teams who are happy to go in with him, who don't just watch him go flying into the backline and go, well, I guess we're going to back off now. No, he needs a fully aggressive team with him, and WE, they've been really stepping up for him recently. At this point in the game, though, things are in a little bit of a lull. This is the difference, right, with this new patch. We do now have little pockets of time where we have time to breathe, think about what the next play is going to be. Apparently, the answer is a dive onto Cube.
Yeah, it's going to match. Teleport from Karis is coming in, and there's just not enough DPS to put down onto this Rumble, who immediately pops the Equalizer and might look to try to turn things around a little bit here. In comes Jwei as well as Vampire, but it's going to be the WE support here first, landing that dredge line here onto the Rel, knocking him up with the depth charge. In comes Taeyoon as well. That Rel's all but toast here as Karis will shut him down. A 1-for-0 off of that play that was started by FPX.
Indeed it was. The Atakan going to be the next available objective to potentially try to play for, but this bot lane tower is very low as well. If you just want to force this one down, then take your resets right here as WE. And they've just been a little bit quicker on the rotation, and Jwei, he was just caught out. He was mispositioning right there, needed to either be a little bit safer or have the rest of the team go in with him. Fortunately for the support for FPX, neither of those end up happening, and it is going to be that bot tower over to WE. They've now got themselves a massive gold lead, 7,000 gold, the advantage right here for WE, right before the next big set of objectives are going to be spawning. Atakan 30 seconds away, and then 3 minutes until the next Drake is on the map.
Team WE looking very poised to potentially be on the way to a 5th straight victory. Again, they have currently the longest active win streak in the LPL. TS did have it for a little bit, but anyone's legends put a stop to that one. So now it is Team WE, potentially one of the hottest teams in the league right now, and that is not something many people would have said or said could have been even a possibility going into this 2025 season. But that is what we have started to see from some of these newer players. Of course, Monki coming in and being that kind of switch up that they might have needed going into split number 2.
Exactly.
And this these Korean carries, and Karis and Taeyoon starting to continue to become better and better as their young careers continue to evolve here in the LPL. FPX still looking for something. They're going to try to find it here on a cube, and they most likely will, as assume. Camping out of the bot lane will be able to pick that one up. Question is, now what can WE get? Because on the top side of the map, that's that Otacon that you were talking about, immediately getting started up.
Yeah, the second that you show that many members down towards the bottom side of the map, the Otacon always going to fall. Homebound Otacon going over to WE right here. The response was an attempted push onto the mid lane out of FPX, but that's not going to end up happening. You do manage to rotate Taeyoon over to that one to stop the push, so you get yourself a kill, and the bot lane tier 1 tower with a little bit of objective bounty gold in response for the Otacon. Now, this new Otacon, it kind of just gives you the same sort of things that we saw previously from the Ruinous Otacon, plus on kills, you get a little bit of a slow, a little bit of extra movement speed, some more adaptive force and everything. You know, it's not the biggest buff overall. It's not as insane as we were seeing right at the very start of Split 1, where, you know, that Ruinous, that Voracious Otacon, they were completely overtuned, completely insane, especially those revives from Voracious. Right now, Thornbound, I think it's in a much better overall spot, but it's definitely the sort of buff you do want to be grabbing for yourself. WE going to be more than happy with that trade.
It definitely gives you still an advantage, which is what we are excited to potentially see here for the side of Team WE. Gold lead hovering around 5,000, kind of for the last 5 minutes or so. But FPX certainly still not in the best position overall here in this game. Currently down to Dragons as well. The third one on the Ocean Rift will be spawning in less than a minute's time. So now Team WE's objective becomes that objective here in the Dragon Pit. As currently Sheer is getting targeted out here, but Monki will get knocked up. Immediately jumping in with the killer instinct is Assume, and Shadow comes in as well. It's a full-on engage here for Team FPX, but they just don't have the juice. They have no damage. Sheer's gonna go down already. It's a 2-for-1 overall in the fight. Equalizer comes out from Cube. It separates the rest of the remaining survivors of FPX, and Team WE win out on yet another skirmish.
Yeah, they do manage to get the kill right here onto Monki, so it is something. It's a decent little shutdown to be able to grab it for yourselves, but they're going to lose this tier 2 tower in the bottom side of the map as well, and 18 seconds until the Drake spawns. You can reset, come back out onto the map with Monki right here, and you're still not losing out onto too much as WE. When FPX are finding these fights, they're never winning them consistently enough. They're never winning them by enough of a margin to really claw back this gold lead. It's down by a little bit. It's only 5,000 at the moment, but still, it's just not quite enough. It was an engage out of WE to start, but the response actually from FPX is a little bit quicker. They're able to just chunk Monki down, even through that shield, the point at which he has to flash, then gets knocked up once again by Jwei. This one is just going to be a little bit over for him, but the response more than enough damage right here out of the WE members. When we jump out of this replay, it's going to be interesting to see where everybody is at with that Drake down on the bottom side of the map. Yeah, you can see multiple members right here of WE have headed down to be able to pick this one up for themselves, and that is now going to be sole point available for WE.
I think it's really starting to fall apart here for FunPlus Phoenix as another play might be opening up here. Monki gonna go in with the Grand Starfall, immediately get knocked up, and then disadvantage smash, and just one shot. And now FPX have the angle that could potentially turn this game around. A charm lands on a Taeyoon. Assume jumps in with a killer instinct, and now it is WE who have to be on the retreat. Their soul laners are still alive, they still do a lot of damage, but FPX go 3-for-1 overall, and Baron is not yet available, but they can still control a lot of the map.
Yeah, they can get a push topside right here, steal away a couple of camps, grab themselves that tier 1 tower in the top lane potentially, but it's still the fact that the Baron isn't available, the fact we're still 1 minute away from the Baron really hurts FPX. That's the best team fight they've been able to find for themselves all game long, and it comes off of over-aggression from WE, and this is the worry, right, for WE. Yes, they're very good at getting themselves early leads through the aggression of Monki, but the aggression of Monki doesn't stop at any point. He continues to be aggressive throughout the entirety of the game. If you go too far forwards, especially with this slightly squishier overall build from the Pantheon, you're just going to get taken out. This was a very aggressive play from him, and it does not pay off.
And he just thought maybe Shadow was isolated, but he definitely was not. He had his backup coming in, a nice engage from Jwei, and a really nicely done from Assume here on this one as well. Yeah. Immediately following up off of that charm that landed onto Taeyoon.
And the full follow-up, and you can see, you know, yes, the early game very much going in the favor overall of WE, but FPX, they're beginning to hit these breakpoints, right? Sheer is now incredibly tanky. You've got 3 items onto Assume. FPX, they do damage. If you misposition as WE, it doesn't matter how much of an early advantage you're able to get for yourself. It doesn't matter that you're up by 3,000 gold right now. FPX, they're getting to the point where this composition really comes to play. And now with the Baron up and available, let's see what the positioning is going to be from both of these teams. Sheer currently in the bottom side. Oh, Shadow, no.
Nice usage of that untargetable here. Gonna keep him alive. Oh, Care! Flash away with the dredge line. Only lane to the charm on a Vampire. But here comes the choo-choo train. Sheer jumping in with that unstoppable onslaught. Is a little bit far forward. Finally going in. And now it is Jwei who gets locked up by the chain of corruption and taken down. The front line of FPX going a little bit too far forward. And that'll cost them 2 more kills as WE can now turn their sights towards the Baron.
You've still got a couple of high damage carries available for FPX or WE. They need to be careful. Need to play Gatekeeper right here. Stop Shadow from being able to get into the pit and potentially steal this Baron away. They've done the hard bit at the start of this fight, though, getting down these main tanky carries.
Vampire looks for a hook on a Care, not able to find it. That Baron is going to get taken down with ease as nobody from FPX can jump in without their front line alive. Assume, not even going for the play, instead try to burst down this tier 1. But now Monki jumping in with a Grand Starfall, going to try to take him down. Assume will survive at least for a little bit longer, but the Weaver's Wall has found Care, and Taeyoon will take him down. Another kill going the way of Team WE. And now it is the 2 carries left alive that are not in a very good situation. There's no empowered recalls. Assume will drop. It's a delayed, but still almighty ace picked up for Team WE with the Baron now in their hands.
FPX, they greed a little bit to try to pick themselves up that mid lane tier 2 tower, desperately trying to get something back after those plays go wrong. But WE, they are just on top right here. Their team fighting a little bit snappier with the double movement ultis between Karis and Monki. And picking up those kills re-establishes their gold lead. Now with the Baron buff up and available, these tier 2 towers and potentially the base right here of FPX is going to be in their sights. Minute 30 seconds until the next Drake is going to spawn, so they've got plenty of time to play and push up right here.
And now what looked like maybe a turnaround for Team FunPlus Phoenix. Certainly starting to fall apart a little bit. Assume is strong, don't get me wrong, 3.5 items, but hey, Taeyoon's right there as well, and the big difference is where the rest of his team currently is at. Monki is 3,500 gold ahead of this Nefiri. Karis is really having himself a good game. He's had to die in this first matchup between these 2 teams in the best of 3. And Team WE once again in solid control of this one. Just need to make sure they don't make any more unnecessary mistakes here as Vampire
very
up in
characteristic.
the aggression here. Weaver's Wall comes out from Karis, but Jwei will be able to jump on out with a crash out. And so mid lane will become the priority here. Only 1 lane is being played right now for WE, but they just want to try to force this one down.
Shadow's got a little bit of a flank on right now, but I don't know if he's going to be able to step up.
Unstoppable onslaught. It is not going to find a target.
Oh.
Vampire goes in onto Jwei, and they will take the rel down with ease. Sheer the next target. The chain of corruption follow-ups onto Assume, and that means that he's going down as well. Shadow very far away, very isolated from the rest of his team, and that means Team WE can ignore him and instead turn their sights to the base.
Yeah, they've still got these Baron-empowered minions pushing forwards. Care, the only member right here, trying to defend at this point. Not going to be able to stop the inhibitor tower going down. Not going to stop the inhibitor from falling. And actually, with the base TP coming through as well, WE, they want to close this one out.
It's just over, folks. It's Team WE marching into the base of Team FPX. And that will be how this Game 1 concludes. Couple of back and forths, a couple of wacky team fights overall, but WE looking to repeat history as they take Game 1 of this best of 3 series.
28-minute victory right there for WE. That's pretty fast in the current meta, and it was a snappy pace of game overall. Yes, things were a little bit odd with the early team fight around an objective that no longer exists, but the minute that WE are able to pick up those 2 kills, one onto the bot lane, one onto the mid lane, from that moment on, they were just rolling. It felt very much like WE were in control of this game from the start of it until the end.
And FPX, uncharacteristically, at least compared to what we saw from them a couple weeks ago, looking a little bit lost here. It never seemed like they were really fully online together as a 5-man unit, while WE certainly did. Karis and Monki utilizing those semi-global ultimates seemingly to perfection, finding plays, sometimes finding maybe a little bit too many plays, as Monki did die a couple of times, maybe unnecessarily. But in the moments that mattered, it was Monki starting the plays, getting himself very far ahead on this Pantheon pick. And the rest of the composition kind of just played itself.
Absolutely. This is the way that WE play, right? Monki giveth and Monki taketh away. He's so aggressive at all times. You kind of expect that there's going to be some int with the Pog, but it was mainly Pog in this game. It was an incredibly impressively played Pantheon game overall. The quadra kill midway through that game, the early aggression, getting the advantages for the rest of the team, and then the overall team composition just really worked right here. It was the on-hit version of the virus, and then you had yourself that rumble as well, which meant every single time these tanky members of FPX jumped in the Rel and the Scion, they just instantly got melted through by their opponents, and then once the front line was down, it was very easy for WE to be able to play out the rest of these team fights.
And they are now 9-2 in their last 11 games here in the LPL. You could call it streaky, you could call it still not super like legit, but I don't know. That's a pretty good game record over your last 11 maps played overall. That's not series score. That's nothing else over the course of this 4-game win streak, and then now including this win over FunPlus Phoenix.
Yeah,
9-2 in their last 11. I mean, that definitely says something of where WE are currently at in terms of how they feel at this moment in the LPL.
And remember, those individual games do really matter. That comes before head-to-head, right? If you 2-0 FPX, but they've managed to win more games in 2-1 situations rather than being 2-0'd by people, all of a sudden, hey, you are putting yourself below them in the standings. It's a really rough way of doing these things, but it makes for a very interesting tiebreaker situation across the board. Picking this one up right here for WE as a 2-0 would be huge for them in terms of the standing straight up from overall series score, but also in terms of that individual game score for those tiebreakers.
Every game matters, as that little placement is really going to determine both what your seeding could be for playoffs and, more importantly, what your game is going to be in that placement stages, right? Who you potentially are going to have to play in a do-or-die best-of-5 against. And right now, WE continue to climb those ranks. And while we certainly don't expect this team to get to the top 4, all things considered, I mean, again, the question is going to be what they look like against the top-level teams. But right now, they are really taking care of business against some of the teams that maybe were expected to be a little bit better than them.
Absolutely, this is just an overall WE that's looking different, that's looking new and fresh, and I think for the organization of WE, you're going to be pretty happy this split with being able to make it into the playoffs. I think make it through the play-ins into the playoffs, even if you're a round 1, round 2 exit, they'll be disappointed, of course, but I think overall that's a really good look, and that gives you something to build around going into split number 3. I don't think you necessarily need to change up this squad. If they can stay together, keep building on what they've got throughout this split 2, I'd be happy overall for WE. For FPX, they're going to need to change things around. They very much don't want to fall 0-2 right here to WE. It's bad for them in the standings, but also having this win streak of theirs snapped and then completely demolished over the course of the last couple of games, it just stops any of that momentum they were beginning to build dead in its tracks.
Yeah, and now for your team FPX, gotta try to stop that momentum somehow, because this is a absolute force that is coming at you here in Team WE. We talked about that that great stretch that they are on right now. And FPX are not. You know, they've lost 2 series in a row. The second round robin has not started off the way that they wanted it to. And so they're going to need to find some way to kind of get back into this game. Again, it seemed like a little bit of just disjointed natures here for FPX. They were the ones who initiated the lane swap at 4 minutes instead of 7. They were the ones who started that fight around the grubs, and they were the ones overextending for potential dives under turrets that were never going to work out. And so it's all about finding the right plays, not just finding plays here for FPX, as they certainly were looking for them. They just never ended up working out their way.
No, I was impressed with Shadow for being able to find proactive plays early on, but it wasn't necessarily always resulting in multiple kills. Maybe to get flash here and there, a little bit of lane pressure for your laners, but nothing too much, nothing that was really impressive. Not in the same way that Monki was able to be very aggressive right here with this Pantheon. Then again, I think that Monki's Pantheon has been one of his best looking champions, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do on something different. Losing with the Neferi, though, right here for Shadow, that's pretty rough, because the Neferi, easily one of the strongest junglers we've got in the current meta, for good reason. This champion does a ridiculous amount of damage and has a huge amount of survivability built in with it, but we never really got to see Shadow use it to any real effect.
Yeah, I feel like FPX kind of got a lot of what they wanted in that draft, too. Assume on the Kaisa is something that he's been very powerful on, obviously, and you know, with that Nefuri, that should have been something that Shadow was looking forward to playing, especially being on that blue side. So back to the drawing board we go, albeit with maybe a little bit less in terms of picks, as we, of course, have reached our second game of this true fearless format in this best of 3. But there's a lot of questions that are going to have to be answered here as we await our player of the game here from WE. I imagine it's Monki after that Pantheon performance.
Surely it's Monki right here. I mean, I think there were lots of people who had pretty good performances overall in this game, but Monki was just on another level, especially with that quadra kill that he was able to pick up for himself, and he really was the driving force right here for WE from the very start till the very end. I think Vampire also looked great. That little hook play that he had to get the kill onto Taeyoon topside was sick as well, and it's so nice to see the jungle support duo right here for WE really start working, really start kicking into gear at this point in the split.
Starting to get there, over closer and closer, step by step here for Team WE, as that is Monki winning the MVP here on the Pantheon. Not super surprising here for the Team WE jungler. So we'll see if they can continue that hot stretch, get to 10-2, maybe overall in their last 12. That would be a nice turn for them to end that streak, or continue their streak and make themselves 5-6. And FPX gonna want to put a stop to that. They're gonna want to make ourselves have a bit of an interesting series here, force that deciding game number 3. But before we head into that game 2 draft, we want to give a big thank you to all of you guys watching here at home on the LPL English channel, and we are extremely grateful to our Coffee and YouTube subscribers who help level up the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it also pays on our talent and content creators. You can subscribe to our Coffee that is currently linked in the chat to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. So check out the Coffee. The link is down in the chat. And we'll be back in just a few short minutes with the draft for game number 2 between FunPlus Phoenix and Team WE.